Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my precious pack, and welcome back once more to VEGA Conflict. I'm going to talk about the mobilization event today, the prize list, because a few things need to be addressed. Targets, the new fleet commander, what I think of him, one change I would make to him, things like that. But let's go ahead and let's jump right into the mobilization prize store. And it is packed as they always are, as we can see. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go through, I'm going to recommend everything, right down to tokens, stuff like that, ignoring base stuff because bases are slowly getting towards a better place with the most recent update, but they could still be in a better position. What is the primary prize? Well, that is Igneous Keef. Let's go ahead and let's quickly go over him, and I'll say my recommended change right away. An eccentric hermit obsessed with gathering resources in order to craft incendiary abominations. He masks his supreme intelligence by speaking in riddles that seemingly make no sense. Igneous is a true savant with explosive weaponry. Alright, he is actually the battleship commander for the fleets, and his bonuses to fleets make little sense to me when I look at them. Well, one specific, and that is actually the missile AoE. Other than that, everything seems in line. Now, I know that they wouldn't want to give him increased torpedo AoE because the daemons are still in a very good position, and that would just make them all the more powerful for wiping out clusters of units. But to me, it doesn't make sense to actually have mismatched bonuses, because in the case of Victoria, the other explosive high level, all of hers are benefiting either the health, survivability of the fleet, or how missiles behave. He is altering how torpedoes and missiles behave, but it's in a lesser degree than what Victoria provided. He's also enhancing battleships with increased damage against other targets, increased resistance, things like that. So the only suggestion I have to make to him for Kiksa is actually to change the missile AoE to torpedo AoE. And yes, I know that it'll just be enhancing daemons, but again, it makes sense to me looking at the rest of the kit in comparison to the other commanders. But that's all I have to say about him. Let's go ahead and let's jump back to the prize store, and the first thing that I'm going to even recommend is the Javelin Flagship, as well as the wormhole drives for it, specifically the Type E Level 3. For any of you who haven't gotten a flagship or don't have a jump ship, it's a high-risk ship, the Javelin, but it's high reward. You can easily maneuver yourself around the sector with it extremely often, however you run the risk of taking 12 hours repair time if you randomly get jumped. So purchase it at your own more or less expense, or if you don't think you can handle it or anything like that, you could still purchase it if possible, and then just wait until a later date to produce it. That's something I need to bring up. It has a hefty 9-day crafting time strapped to it. The other prizes are actually all fairly similar, and we have prizes from each faction as we always do. Weapons, armor, stuff like that, but there's a few prizes that are missing that as I go through the recommendations list I'll bring up. First ships I'm going to recommend is each of the battle cruisers, including the Renaissance, the garbage truck, because of its recent changes. And these changes are actually to its feedback loop, and what it does is after it receives the damage over time stacks, it actually gets shield regeneration now of 10% per second with no delay. It also gains 5% increased shield defense. Now that is extremely good, because it'll enhance the survivability after it achieves the goal. So in PvE targets, it'll work exceptionally well against the Pharmacon now, because it'll be able to maintain its shield defense regardless of what's firing at it, explosive or anything like that. It'll just be able to tank everything while fighting back. And with certain builds that I'm going to be showing off on Wednesday or Tuesday, tomorrow, depending on when all my fittings are done, you guys are going to see what I think it's 4,500 damage per second looks like against the DDoS targets. But the reason I'm recommending the garbage truck is just because of that change. After that, pick up the Gargoyle, the Trojan, the Daemon, naturally. and then match the boxes with the number you want to produce to begin with. And I'm just going to quickly point out the numbers as well as bring up the first issue with the prize store. We have the Inquisitor here, but we do not have Inquisitor boxes. We instead have Bastion boxes. So, don't know what's going on with that, but I would recommend it be changed next time around, or at least be kept on track so that all things coordinate and are of the similar and matching ships. Because the Inquisitor, and without the Mark II boxes in here, you can't mark upgrade them if you start building them, because you can't get the Mark II boxes anywhere unless you buy them from the store, in a mark offer, something like that. So, stupid move on Kickstarter's part. That's just the first of a few on the list. But recommendations now can resolve an issue later. But, first off, if you're going to be mark upgrading the ships, depending on how many you want, you're going to want 5 Mark II boxes for each ship. 5 boxes equals 1 guaranteed mark upgrade for a ship. If you're going to be upgrading the carrier, you're going to need double that amount. So you're going to need 10 per mark upgrade. So if you want to build 3 of the carriers, you're going to need to buy all 30 boxes. That's enough of that. And as always, the weapons always go in order. 1 then 3, then 2. 1 and 3 due to certain fittings, or certain light fittings, certain heavy fittings, things like that, all Mark 1 unupgraded and just aiming for power. Level 2, so when you start getting the middle weapons, you want to build well-rounded Mark 2 to 3 ships. Hammer Missile 1 then 2, I would recommend picking up at least 2 level 1s and 2 level 2s if possible, or 4 level 1s and skip out on level 2s, and same thing with Nightingales, either 2 and 2 or 4 of level 1. The binary torpedoes of 1, 3, then 2. Terra Cannon 1 and 2. The Prime Falcon 1, 3, and 2. Again, depending on the fittings, you're going to be doing light fittings, you're going to want level 1. If you're doing heavy combat fittings for Mark 1 ships, you're going to want level 3. And level 2 is just around for mid fittings in most how I've used it. Lancer Cannon 1, 2, and 4. I can't really recommend it due to the slow speed though for the heavy. Yeah. Deflector Screen 1, 3, then 2, and this brings up the next issue. Where's the deflector shell kicks eye? Where's it at? Because I went through the prize store over and over, I couldn't find it, and you're selling Altarian ships and you're not giving them any shell types, you're giving screens away. Deflector Resonant Armor, I could recommend if you're going up against base targets or things that are doing extremely heavy amounts of projectile, kinetic. But if you're not, I wouldn't recommend it because it'd be a waste of your points. Node Armor 1 then 2, Ablative Tungsten 1 then 2, Sonic Armor 1 then 2, Celestial Optics 1 then 2, and I just want to quickly point out something. With most of the fleet commanders in the game, any negative effects you get from the Celestial Optics are completely negated. You just lose a little bit of the damage per second you'd typically have, but you're still going to be gaining more from the fleet commanders than what the weapon takes away from. Or at least, that's what I think it is. I'd actually have to fit it on a ship, check the damage reduction between it and a ship that doesn't, throw the fleet commander on, check to see the difference, and actually see if it is accumulative, so the total number, which is after the commander's buff is applied, is the new number that is subtracted from, or if it's just the base number that is subtracted from the new number, or something like that. Numbers. Apex Impaler, depending on the fitting, I could recommend level 1 for low fittings, but I'd always recommend level 3 for the high fittings, so 6 level 1s, because you can always turn them into level 3s later on. So a minimum of 6. Sunder Thrusters 1, 3, then 2. Even though I wouldn't recommend them, I would recommend the Harmonic Chase Thrusters. Phase Charge Relay 1 and 2. Even though the one we all want is actually with the Drain, because we want to remain in phase longer, but we want to take the charge time. So the opposite of, actually, is it even in this list? No, the other one isn't in this list unless I passed it. I didn't. I just didn't see it. It's not in the list. Okay, so that's another one. Make sure that specials correlating to these ships and stuff like that are always ready. Either that, or split up the prizes and make it so individual mobilizations run multiple times per month, but each one focuses on a certain faction. So Altarians, Umbra, Pharmacon. Disruptors, well, the resistors in this case. I can recommend them again depending on what ships you're using and what you're fighting. Again, take it this way. If you're going to be fighting stuff that's doing extremely heavy kinetic damage, then yes, it makes sense to add them to your ships. Unless you're running extremely heavy weapons fitting, stuff like that, in which case, don't. Just stick with the fitting you already have. Base weapons, I can never recommend them. Base specials, can never recommend them. Wings, it's not the wing I would use. I would recommend the red wing and mix it with Eclipse driver turrets, the heavy ones. I'd mix the kinetic and the high explosive. But they don't have the red wing here. Next up, gold prize box. And again, you're going to have a strong chance of getting paladins, guardians, and enforcers, as well as Eclipse driver credits of various types up to the Xeno, as well as harmonic chase thruster credits. All good stuff. Silver prize box, get it if you want to, but I wouldn't recommend it. Gold prize box takes everything. Crafting tokens to match whatever you decide to buy, naturally. And resources if you're running low. Okay, that's about it. I've covered everything I wanted to talk about. Tomorrow there should be one video or no video tomorrow, and there should be two on Wednesday if there isn't one tomorrow, because there's going to be one involving... Was it the inhibitors? No. It was the garbage trucks. That's what it was. The garbage trucks, testing them out again against DDoS targets now that they've been buffed, and the buff is live and we can actually view it and see it, stuff like that. And I have tested with one of them alone. It does apply to it. But tomorrow we should be getting the rest of the base update, which is another thing I wanted to talk about, but it's still not live right now. We got the additional combat modules, but we haven't gotten the rest of the update, so we can't upgrade the hangar modules to level 16 yet or anything like that. Other than that, on Wednesday there's also going to be a fleet, this little fleet. It's still not done, I'm still working with it, but this is going to be for lower levels, and I'll talk about it on Wednesday. Just like I'll be talking about the other one tomorrow, on Tuesday, or on Wednesday. Just depends on how long it takes to fit everything. But that's it, everybody. I hope that this opens up everybody's eyes and they point out that certain things need to be in the event shop, or that certain things need to be separated, so we should have 3 individual mobilizations run in the course of a month, each one correlating to whichever faction the primary feature is. So, Altarian, Pharmacon, Umbra. But that's it, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it helpful. If not, well, I can't please everybody. Naturally, it's just a cheap recommendation video that's more or less just copy and paste, because I do the same thing every single time that it comes up, and I do one like this. Oh, no wait, there was one other thing. I talked about at the beginning of the, did I talk about this recording or the last one? I'm tired and I messed up the previous recording. No, I didn't. The audio was messed up. Had to start a new one. Outposts. Targets. Where did the Altarian outposts and the Umbra-occupied Altarian outposts go? I very rarely see them other than in the not the mobilization, the crafting event. Yeah, I think that's the only time that I see bases in any of the events, unless I'm just not logged in and playing the events when they're actually live. And nobody bring up the Alliance War bases because I'm not counting them, because that's supposed to be, well, it started as PvP event, but it went PvE. But I just want to bring this up, that outposts were another aspect of the game via targets that just allowed a little bit more versatility, a little bit more choosability, depending on what the player wanted to fight, and brought a little bit more entertainment via various fights. Was that Sybil? I think that was. Yes, that is. But the outpost being removed, it was... I don't think they were ever a primary feature of the main events, or they haven't been in a while, and I would actually like to see a larger variety of targets. So for the dev team, I'd like to recommend or suggest that they actually introduce them back and think about a Pharmacon themed set of outposts. Just don't go overboard with them being Pharmacon themed and make everything in the base phase, because the phasing is a big issue with the game already. Just make it plasma based and things like that. Now that's truly everything I wanted to talk about. Okay. Everybody, be safe out there in the void. Have a good day, all of that. And as always, everybody, I'll see you in the next video.